Morning. So clarity is one of the things that I learned this week with student teaching is really important to incorporate. For instance, this past week on Tuesday was the last day of the classes for the final marking period, and I thought I specified to students over and over again in the past 2 weeks that this Tuesday we're doing our presentations and everybody has to have the project finished. Last Thursday in my horticulture class we did flower arrangements, and I told students that they had the option to just work on their project if they wanted to, because all of the projects had to be ready to go when we first came back to school on Tuesday. Yeah, not all of them were ready. Several of them were. I think the majority were. But there were students who came up to me and they were like, "Miss Moser, you never told us that." I I questioned them because I'm like, I'm pretty certain that I did. I guess I need to work on my tough face. Like, yes, I definitely did. I told you this day, this day, this day for like 2 weeks. But nonetheless, I was like, okay, I don't want anybody to necessarily fail my class, so I said, okay, you can come down this week during flex and finish your project. And so they did, and I made them present even though they had hardly anything on their poster, just because we wouldn't have any other time in class to present. So I was able to adapt that way, but I'm just learning through my student teaching experience how specifically clear directions students need. They need every detail spelled out. I'm intrigued to, as I continue teaching, to try more inquiry-based lessons and plans. However, I think that will need a lot of preparation, like building blocks, and so that brings me back to some of my 412 classes that I took last fall and helping to, I guess, set or gear students' mindsets up to be like, okay, you are old enough, you can be responsible for your learning. Let's make awesome things happen. So I'm excited to try that and figure out new things as I continue with my teaching career. And other things that I've learned this week was that rubrics are fantastic. I was getting ready to grade my shop projects, and I asked Mrs. Beer several times if she would help me grade the projects, and she did. She walked me through several of them, and she also said, "Where's your rubric?" So I pulled out the rubric, and that made things so much better. I was able to have concrete detail that I could rely on. And some students got poor grades on their shop projects, even though they had the majority of the semester to work on them in the actual shop. And but some of those students were good at helping other students, so I didn't want to give them a bad grade. And Mrs. Beers like, "Jenna, tough skin, use the rubric." And so Mrs. Beers is good at helping me I guess, be stronger with that. And so I used the rubric, and several students, when they got their projects and they asked for the grade and I shared it with them, they were kind of like, yeah, okay. It's like they expected it, like they knew that that's what they earned. So that was kind of reassuring to me. While I would like them to have a higher grade, that let me know that, yes, I followed the rubric, I gave them guidelines. That's as much as there is to it. They have the ability. And also with students with IEPs, I was like, "Mrs. Beer, I can't. These students, like, I think that this is probably the best of their skill, even though it's pretty shoddy. Like, this is pretty impressive for them." Then Mrs. Beer is like, "Okay, the students don't necessarily know each other's grade. You can change that, and you have to rely on that IEP to help with these planning." So that was cool because I was able to use that IEP and use it as a guideline for myself to adjust their grade appropriately according to their skill and ability level. So that was nice. Let's see, other things that happened this week. I started the new day lesson on Wednesday. I started every single class, first day lesson, and it was pretty cool. I definitely felt more comfortable doing it than I did the first time, I guess, 9 weeks ago. That's kind of crazy to be like, wow, I've been teaching for 10 weeks now. And anyway, the first day that I did the lesson, I was definitely really nervous, and this past Wednesday I was like, this is everything that you need to know. Let's go through it. Let's do it. And I feel like I was able to connect to the students. And actually, the next 2 days after I taught that lesson, I had several students come up to me and they were like, "Miss Moser, I thought you were going to teach this class." I was like, "Sorry, Mrs. Beer's taking classes back from me." One student said, well, even though you're not teaching this class, will you be here to teach this ag class that I'm taking next fall? And I thought, no, I'm not. But that's kind of cool. The students are going to miss me, and they don't know that I'm leaving. They don't know that I'm going away in 2 weeks. So I'm like, all right, even though I feel like I'm a crazy person all over the place sometimes, at least I'm making connections, and that's neat. So moments like that assure me that, yes, Jenna, you're a teacher. You like what you do. You're learning. You're not the best, but you're learning to be better. And hopefully 30 years from now, I can still be like, I'm not the best, but I'm still learning to be better. So I can constantly seek that approval rating for myself. Yeah, but that was just pretty cool. Other things that I did this week was uh, learning to adapt to frustrations of things, and just working my way through different projects that I have and making sure that I had all my information together. And I learned that communication is key, and I was able to sort out one of my issues via communication, so that was nice. And then I taught a vet science class on Thursday and part of Friday. That's the vet science and leadership are the two blocks that I still have right now, and I really like vet science. I'm using I'm using the curriculum from Cornell, and it's just neat to see professionally done lesson planning, so that way I can use that kind of as a guide for myself as I continue to develop my own curriculum, to be able to be like, this is a good sequence to follow. That's pretty cool. And I set up a vet's office visit for next week to visit a local vet with all of my students. And other things is I got prepared for the elk talk for Mrs. Beer's natural resource class. I made sure that all the communications and Skype calls were working efficiently, and relying on the tech guy person at our school, Randy. He's pretty cool. And in addition, there was two guest speakers who came to our class, or our school, all day on Friday from the conservation district, and it was neat to be able to help students realize that even though you're in a vet science class or small gas engines class, or especially a natural resources class and a leadership class, you can connect to conservation, and conservation is important to you, and here's how it connects to agriculture, and here's how it connects to your specific segment. So just finding those connections and utilizing community resources has been definitely extremely beneficial, and hopefully something that I continue to rely on and use as resources as I continue with my teaching career. So overall this week I definitely learned a lot, and patience and communications, I think, are two strong takeaways from this week. And I'll be excited to update you for the next 2 weeks. So have a good day. Bye.